Alright, so got this 20-gallon long aquarium at a big box store at Petco. When they had the $1 per gallon sale, this will be the new Crabitat to replace that 10-gallon that's getting a little dingy and old and small and cramped. So this is the aquarium we're going to use. Also got a few other supplies at a hardware store and some stuff that we have laying around that we're going to use to try to get this thing going. Alright, so one of the things I got was this egg crate style light diffuser at the hardware store, which I'm going to use to help secure the background, I think, and possibly make a lid out of it so the crabs can't climb out. We'll see how that works. So we're going to go ahead and measure the height and the width of the tank and everything so I can stand this up in the back for the climbing background. And I also have some PVC pipe that I purchased, small pieces that I'm going to use in the back of the aquarium so I could siphon out water if it falls down. I also have some pea gravel I'm going to clean and put at the bottom for the base of the substrate there, so that way if water does spill, it'll go down there and I can use these pipes to siphon it out, and we'll go over all that as we go through. So the next thing we're going to do is measure the height of the aquarium. The one thing I want to make sure is anything that I cut to fit towards the back of this thing for the background and the pipes for drainage is that it's below the little lip there that's going to hold the lid, so that way the lid will fit very securely, you know, and we won't have any problems with that fit. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the height up to that exact point and the exact internal width of the aquarium now. So we're going to measure exactly, or as close as possible. So we're looking at approximate, just shy of 12 inches. We'll say 11 3/4, and I can always trim it down a little bit if needed to fit. So 11 3/4 for height. The interior, from glass to glass, looks as though it's going to be about 29.5. So 29.5. So that's what we're going to cut our piece of plastic to. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and measure out on this light diffuser here the specs that I need for that background wall that I'm going to be working on. So it's 29.5. It may be actually a little less than that, but I can always file it down a little if needed or break off some tabs. So 29.5 across and 11 3/4 up is what I'm going to measure off. I just have a felt tip marker. Going to measure it and mark it off. 29.5. Just past that space there. You guys probably aren't going to be able to really see what I'm marking, but it's just past the square there, so it should fit. It doesn't have to be exact because there's ways that I can tighten it later, and I don't want it so tight that it's going to scratch the glass as I'm trying to put it in either. So now we're going to go for 11 3/4. So we'll just snap it right at this square. Alright, that's the size we're going to need. I have it measured out. What I'm going to do now is probably take this outside or into the garage to go ahead and start cutting it and see how well it fits. So what I'm going to try to do is follow these marks that I started here and just kind of follow the grid from there. I have these little snippers, I'm not sure what they're called, tin snips maybe, wire cutters. To try to use that to do so, I'm going to make sure to keep my sunglasses on because this stuff's pretty brittle. It seems like it could pop and go flying in our eyes. So it seems like it could also be kind of sharp, so maybe gloves would be recommended. We'll see. I'm going to show you guys a few cuts here. It works pretty well with these cutters. It is pretty brittle, but it seems to work pretty well. And I'm just going to do this following the grid line until I get the size and shape that I want. Alright, so I'm on the last few cuts here. And we're done. We now have our piece. Hope it fits. If not, we can go in and do a little bit of trimming if necessary. But we'll see how this fits. Alright, we got our piece cut. Ready to make sure it's going to fit. I'm hoping it fits fairly tight or close to. It'll make life easier in the long run. But if it's a little small, which I think it might be, it'll still be fine. So you'll kind of see what I'm getting at here. There we go. Looks like it fits just right with the height and the width there. So it's going to go in the back, and the goal is to cover it with some of this stuff here, so that way you don't really see it, but it's also going to give them a surface to climb on, which I think will be pretty neat. And with that egg crate diffuser, it'll make it fairly rigid. So we'll see how that goes. I also need to go ahead and cut these pipes, which I'm going to cut those to the same height as this. They're going to go behind it to create a space. And then we'll, go from there. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these pipes, also maybe drill some holes in the bottom and put some screen around it. And I'll show you what I mean with that when we get there. Alright, so we're going to measure these pipes to 11 3/4 as well. Let's see here. And that's where we're going to cut them off. Let me see, I'm curious if I can get 2 out of each. I can, which is going to be nice. Alright, all I'm going to do for these pipes, I thought I had a PVC cutter but couldn't find it, so I'm just going to use a hacksaw real quick. What I did was just clamp the piece down to my workbench here. Excuse the mess, sorry, it's work area. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and just cut these off pretty quick, and then I'm probably going to use some sandpaper to fix some of the burrs around the edge of the pipe, so that way I don't get loose pieces of plastic all in the Crabitat there. And that's it. I'm going to use some sandpaper to fix up that edge there, and we'll go ahead and see if they fit. Alright, so I have 4 pieces of the pipe cut. I think that's enough for now. What I'm going to do is zip tie those to the egg crate, so that way they'll stay in place and they'll create that gap behind the back aquarium glass and the background that I'm looking for. And that way it'll hold them in place, and it should add a little more rigidity, is that the word? Rigidity? To the background, make it a little more rigid. So that way it'll stay in place a little bit better. I think for the most part the gravel I'm going to put at the bottom and the substrate will hold it in place, and we won't really have any other issues there. Hopefully. We'll see. This is all trial and error. So what we're going to do is just use a couple of zip ties and zip tie these PVC pipes across like this. Let's do one right here. Can you pull it through that? There we go. Actually, let's do it one up. Alright, can you pull that tip through or push it through? There we go. And we'll do another one here. What we'll do is we'll place the pipe, push it up, just like that. So what you do is you push it through. And you pull it tight. Just like that. And you can still maneuver it a little bit if needed. Alright, we're still zip tying these down. My daughter getting pretty good with the zip ties. Then we'll come back and we will trim these off with some scissors. Okay.
See, it's gonna kind of snap.
Alright, that's good enough. So we have this. We're going to place that in the background after we trim off these edges and stuff. And I still got, I need to figure out how we're going to use this stuff. I just have a ton of it left over. So I'm going to try to use this in several layers to cover this back so it's not so visible. And I think it'll make it look more natural, make it look like a neat background. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this, and then we'll start looking at how to cover this background. Alright, so what I think we're going to do at this point is just use this roll that I have, even though it's narrow. It'd be nice to have a big piece that I could just cover the entire thing with. But what I think we're going to do is just kind of wrap it around and around and around and around and around and around, over and over and over. Make it really thick and make it hard to see through. I want it to go this way, up and down, so that way as the crabs are climbing up and down, they're not going to get behind it, hopefully, if it's tight enough. So, and I have some clear or like white colored zip ties that I'm going to use to secure it, I think, and that should hold it. And we'll see how this goes. I mean, this is, like I said, a work in progress. If it doesn't work, I can always take it out, take these off, and put something else in its place. So I'm going to go ahead and try wrapping this around and see how it goes. And I'll hopefully be able to show you guys a finished product. Alright, so here it is, all covered and zip tied down. It seems tight enough to keep the crabs from going behind it, and it seems to fit well. So thanks for watching, hopefully this helps, and make sure to subscribe to see what else we're going to be doing with this Crabitat.